caucus time starting at 5:30. So we've got a lot to go over. It's a pretty heavy agenda tonight as far as just the public hearings. And we've got a lot to go over. So I want to make sure that we as council have time to ask any questions and address some of the things like on the agenda before we get into any of the process of the hearing and where we are. So for final passage tonight, we have the ordinance rezoning the Erie Cemetery. Is there any questions? Wait, am I reading, is this the correct one here? I don't think that is. Yeah, no, the wrong one is stuck. We'll get, it's like, that's absolutely not our agenda. No, isn't? Okay, no, it is. We're good. No, yeah, no. I was like, wait a minute, we've definitely talked about more this than twice. Okay. Anybody have any questions around the final passage then for the historic site, the zoning, right?
There's no financial situation attached to that. No money that we're going to have to spend, right? They just have to adhere to the historic commission.
Yeah, and I think the goal was to open that so they can actually get more money through grants and stuff from the support of the state.
It's a beautiful idea.
Any question on the ordinance for the first reading? This one is, so when we pull this one up, this one can be a little confusing. Looking at it, the ordinance for the first reading is actually pulling in all the other ordinances and aligning them up with an E-code so that they are correctly codified online and on the website, the platform that we use. And so that's really what we're passing is putting the ordinances that we've already passed in the right place on the E-code system. At least that is how I understand it to be.
Goes to Mo.
Oh, I will go with Mr. Chu.
That goes back over to.
Yeah. All right. Any question from council on the old business then? This is where I suspect, actually, if we wouldn't mind pausing for a second, and because I think that we're going to have quite a bit of conversation on this. Looking at new business or any of the transfers or contracts or purchase orders from council. I do have a question. And I apologize I didn't catch this earlier. I actually didn't catch it until I was talking with the solicitor. Mayor, could you explain the reappointment of Colin Russ, because he's on both the Planning Commission and the design, and just how that's not a conflict and just the role designation there?
I will begin, and then I might ask Cooper or Jackie if they're here to come to the mic to help. Colin, first of all, there's obviously a lot of overlap. The Design Review Committee makes recommendations to the Planning Commission, so we did not see that there was any kind of conflict. In fact, we see it as a kind of good base of knowledge. And also just want to say, have been very impressed with Mr. Russ as I've gotten to know him, and the Planning Commission did ask to keep him on. But Jackie, can you speak to whether is there a conflict between Design Review and Planning, you or Cooper? Cooper was in the front row. I should have called on him. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I don't think there's a conflict of interest. The Design Review Committee advises the Planning Commission, and one of their seats is for one of the Planning Commissioners to also be on the Design Review Committee, so that there is some shared knowledge between the two. But Rich Spiker is on both committees. Colin Russ
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, Colin Russ is just Planning Commission.
Okay. Where did then? Okay. Is he coming up for reappointment? Isn't there one?
I think they just voted on that on Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you. We had started to kind of go into the design and the planning, and so that things are, and thanks for catching that, is a little jumbled, but I wanted to just kind of explain too, because I also don't understand if one is on one, was it a conflict to vote on the other? So thank you. I appreciate that.
Technically, yesterday at the Planning Commission, he did not vote. During the vote to vote himself, reassigned to the Design Committee. And then the Design Committee really is supposed to be very technically oriented, so they want specific occupations. So he's the architect that fulfills that role. And then the Planning Commission would look at more of the macro, vision for the city and for the 10-year plan and that sort of stuff. And then he would use his expertise, then would shift from specific, technical stuff to the macro vision. That's my understanding.
Go ahead.
Okay. No.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
I'm good.
Okay. Thanks, Cooper.
Yes, thank you, Cooper. Any other questions then from council on anything that we see before we get into the old business? Because those pertain to the public hearings we'll be getting into, and I just want to kind of go through the process there.
Dr. Titus, could I just ask council to take note under committee reports? So I don't know, have you gone over this already about how appointments will be placed there?
No.
Did you go over that? So I just want council to note that in the past, it's been a little difficult once there have been appointments to particularly some of our boards and commissions. They haven't been memorialized on agendas, and so it is possible to find them if you really kind of go back and look in the E-code, but without them being on the agendas, it makes it much more difficult. So Dr. Titus had asked if there was a way to get these appointments, even the ones that you don't need to approve, because some you do need to approve, some you don't, even the ones that you don't need to approve, to get them on the agenda. So the solution we came up with is under committee reports, we're kind of treating it like as part of my mayor's report, and we're putting them there. Again, you're not voting on this part. By this point in the agenda, you've done voting, but it's for your kind of benefit and also to make sure that it's on the agenda. It's easily searchable if folks are looking. So just want to let you know from now on, any appointment that you don't have to approve, we're going to be placing there for you to see. Thank you.
All right. So if you don't mind then, Solicitor, I would like to just kind of walk through some of the process that we're going to see tonight as we go into these two public hearings.
Okay, so I drafted two different things for our purposes tonight. So we've had a lot of public interest in at least one of those projects. So, but for both of these, or both public hearings, I'd like to use the same process for both. So what I've listed as ground rules. So I'm going to come over and just kind of tell the crowd that this is a legal proceeding. So the city is going to request the following, and I have a bunch of bullet points. So all witnesses will need sworn in. Everyone will need to remain quiet for the speaker at the microphone. We don't want one person speaking at a time, just out of respect and also for clarity. So everyone also needs to remain quiet for the court reporter. Now, there is a slight issue. The court reporter, we want here physically. However, that person called off. So we're going to have the court reporter through Zoom. It's already been double checked. It's going to be, they can do that. Now, however, we're going to need everyone to speak into the microphones because it's going to be a little bit harder for the court reporter here. And that's also another reason why it's important for everyone to remain quiet or remain calm. Okay? So I'm going to read that. So also just remind everyone that this is presented before you guys because the Planning Commission has made the recommendation for City Council's decision. City Council will need to decide if the plan complies with basically sections 305 and 306 of the zoning code. Now 306 is the more pertinent one. That's the waterfront conditional use. So that's what you guys are going to make your final decision on. So you're hearing evidence or testimony tonight to make your decision based on those criteria. I'm going to announce City Council will not make a decision tonight. The order of the hearing, my recommendation is that city staff or the developers will present first. City Council will then be able to ask questions either after that or also during the presentation. Again, because of the nature of the court reporter in that situation, I'd ask one person speak at a time. All witnesses, like for the public, so it's not public comment, but for people who want to say about the project specifically, I'm just going to ask that they say their name, spell it for the court reporter, say where their residency is, just like you guys do for regular hearings. So if they live in Mill Creek or the city or wherever, do that. Whether they're for or against the proposal, and then why. Okay, that's the only reason they're up here for that public hearing. If they have something else to say about another topic, that's what public comment's for. Okay, they can come up twice, or technically, because we have two public hearings, they can come up for both public hearings, speak their piece, and then save the rest of it for public comment. Then we're going to close out that proceeding, and then we're going to redo the same process, I'm hoping smoothly, for the second one. Okay? Now, so this is the schedule I'm proposing, and this kind of incorporates sort of what I've said already, but I have it as a separate paper here. So confirm one, the court reporter's ready, swear in the witnesses, read the ground rules, so just kind of read what I just read already, call to order the first public hearing, which is going to be the liquor license transfer, have Lori read the agenda blurb so everyone knows officially on the record what we're talking about, have the presentation by either city staff or the developers, so they would go first. Again, questions from city council members at that time. So again, if you want to ask a question during the presentation, again, I just ask for one person at a time, and then they can respond. Or if you just want to wait until they're all done, that's up to you guys. And then call up any citizens who are for or against, and then why. And then officially close out that first public hearing, and then repeat the process for the second public hearing. They're two separate things. So that's my proposal, to keep it just going smoothly and to make sure that it's, we get everything we need so that you guys can make a valid decision at the next hearing, or next city council meeting.
Thank you. So my other goal then for this evening for the councilors is we can't go into necessarily the topic of the hearing material because we have to do the public hearing, but this would be a great time for us to kind of go over section 305 or 306 if there's any questions before we go into that, so that we all are feeling pretty confident in those two sections. Those are the ones I had emailed out last week, and that the solicitor had cited and kind of point us to that top paragraph and then all of section 306. But does anybody have any questions? Because I just want to make sure we feel good as council going in with where we are with that. So then after we have tonight's hearing, we as council will be able to discuss amongst ourselves, and then at that point we can make any requests for any accommodations that we might have to be placed on those waterfront conditional uses.
Right. So they just have to be reasonable.
Yeah.
So, and within the confines of the conditional use part of the ordinance. So, yes.
And you'll have time to review the recording of the hearing.
And then we'll get all the
And the
public comments and the
intro,
letters.
Yeah,
And then could you
public comments.
explain the letters again too? Like, how long do they have to get?
How long?
Like-
What I had suggested was that they have up until roughly 4:30, the end of business today, to submit a letter or an email. But certainly if someone submits something, 8 o'clock tonight or whatever, I don't think that would be opposed. I think I wanted it ahead of time so that it was fresh and from them. But if you get a letter on Friday and still haven't made a decision, I don't say you don't throw that out.
Yeah.
I'll just keep that. And then we can, at the next hearing, we can say, hey, we have achieved, we got more, just kind of keep it transparent. So Cooper has already received letters for tonight that I asked him to say how many he has. And then before you vote next time, I think I would put on the record that you've received X number of letters or emails between today and then next time. And just say this, and you put on there that how you considered all of them and make your decision. That's how I would do it.
Jason, I just want to say I really appreciate you laying that out.
Thanks.
In the way, in the order that in the way that you just did, too. It really makes it very for me.
Yeah, just trying to keep it simple too.
I do expect that we will have a lot of public comment tonight, not only during the public comment time, but also during the public hearings, just with the emails I've been receiving and just what I've been seeing online. So I would expect to have a pretty full house tonight. Is there anything else that any other councilor would like to bring up, either about tonight's agenda or something that we've recently gone over that maybe still needs resolution?
Is the zoo all taken care of?
You want to give an update on the zoo?
I was told that we're good to go. So that was about a half hour ago.
And I think there's an announcement on Monday. We'll make sure you all get the information on that.
Well, you all may have covered it at the study session, which I was unable to attend, but still fresh in my mind, the parking authority. Is there any updates on that?
So I was not able to attend the Parking Authority meeting. I don't know if you were there this week, Jasmine. I meant to coordinate with you. So I have a meeting request out to the executive director, and we also have a separate meeting where we're asking all the authority directors to come together to meet with me to talk with them about how we're going to be doing appointments a little differently in the future. But I have a separate meeting request into him. So after that, I will have an update for you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Remind me, so we had talked, and then this I think would just also help kind of prep. Do you remember what we had said next month's study session was going to be?
Next month's study
I know
session,
we switched
I
it.
believe, is going to be parks. I'm looking at Jackie. No? Code, thank you.
Code,
Yes,
okay.
thank you, Catherine. So next month's study session, that will be your April study session, will be pretty meaty. We have some proposed changes for you to some code enforcement procedures. We want to talk about fees. We want to talk about a particular program that we feel we need to have some more oversight on. So that's going to be all around kind of code enforcement and neighborhood issues. We also, in April, will be coming to you, because you're only doing one study session a month, we don't want to overload you, but we do have a few things in April that we do need to bring to you. So we will be bringing CDBG allocations to you April 1st. So those will be coming to you in advance, so you have time to review them, and then we'll, during council meeting, we'll do a presentation and answer your questions. And then the other one is at the request of Mr. Brzezinski, we're going to be bringing you a comprehensive look at bike lanes. We know this was a hot topic issue last year, and Mr. Brzezinski has kindly reminded me that the biggest issue was lack of communication. So we want to make sure that we're fully communicating with you, you understand where we're looking for bike lanes, how they connect, what the whole plan behind them, and give you lots of time to talk about that. So both of those will be presentations to council in April.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very interesting to see how it connects, because it can't.
Where are we with, it's not on here, but like the home rule charter stuff? Are we still, is that still in consideration, or is that?
So that is officially off the ballot with our second final passage, was at two meetings ago. So that one is down. We took it down and left it in a position where if any other counselor wanted to bring it back up, we could at some point in the future, so that we've kind of neatly packaged it back up, so that it's not, the process could still exist if we wanted to reopen it, but we'd have to like re-engage the process and do the first and second reading again.
The biggest problem with that, I believe, is they needed 200 signatures to get on there to be chosen. And there was no real time for him to educate the public to find out what they would be getting into by doing it. So it was wisely pulled.
I think there was a lot of.
I think there were a lot more problems with it that I won't open up into how it impacted our pension. And I think that it was probably something that would put the cart before the horse. And it would have had long, hard impacting, negative impacting consequences on our pension. And I, for one, hope it never comes back up. Not in the form of district, voting by district. And I could talk ad nauseum about why that shouldn't be. It's like a citywide gerrymander.
And that was one of the, so I am glad, yeah, so essentially to answer your question, Councilor Troop, it is off, so it won't be on the ballot at all. And I think to give us more time to address a lot of the concerns, if we want to bring it back up.
Right.
Bring it back up.
I'm thinking, I see how we're going to put the committee reports under letter K. If we ever decide to bring that back up, to educate the public, could we make a letter to start putting something, every agenda on the.
You're free to introduce it.
On that, you know what I mean?
Any council person is free to introduce it, to bring it
I'm
back
not saying I
up.
want to introduce it, I'm just saying if it ever comes back up, and I know we talk about educating the public, could we put something right on the agenda, every agenda, like, hey, fact about home rule charters? That way, by the time it comes, and we could talk about it every one
Yeah.
of those that comes up.
I do, though, want to let Mr. Horton know, we did ask PFM to do a pretty extensive review of the financial impact of home rule charter. I just want to say that is in no way an endorsement. We just felt that it was important to have the financial information. So you will see that when PFM does come to us, thanks to the controller who kind of raised the concerns. So again, not an endorsement, just wanting to give you more information on that piece.
Just in full disclosure, I stand ready to vehemently oppose it, as ferocious and as passionately as I can.
The PFM?
No, the home rule charter voting by district.
I asked a question, I never got an answer a couple of years ago. The last PFM was a 5-year plan.
Yes.
They never came back to us and told us the impact of COVID.
Well,
And that's why I had a big problem with the 5-year plan, because it was blown in the air after 2 years.
yeah, absolutely true, Mr. Brzezinski. I will note that we have to pay PFM, and so like with this engagement, we have a grant from the state. So I'm not sure that the city could, if the city had wanted them back, the city would have had to pay for that, and that might have been maybe something at the time, different administration, they didn't want to do.
Lack of communication. Thank you.
This is very much putting you on the spot, and it's okay if you don't have anything prepared.
Is this like the hot seat? Did I
This
pick the
is-
hot
you
seat tonight?
did pick the hot
Okay.
seat.
That's why they set you in the blue seat.
That is the blue seat.
Might have
That's
been a
actually what
nice
it means.
seat. Okay.
No, I was just curious, I've received several calls just around housing and especially rentals, and I know you've had a couple of meetings, and just how have those, is there good engagement, just to kind of get a sense of
The housing plan.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes, so we have had 2 meetings, 2 listening sessions, one last Wednesday. That one was really focused on owners and landlords. It was it was a different crowd than I would say we normally get, and their questions were different. And they wanted to specifically talk about the needs and the concerns of landlords, which we heard and received. And in fact, afterwards, I promised that we would go to a meeting of the Apartment Association in May to present to the landlords and allow them to ask questions of us. I also invited them to City Hall to come talk. We were very clear, of course, in our need to protect our tenants, but we also hear the landlords and their concerns and want to make sure that they feel heard and that they're being taken into consideration. And then on Saturday, we had another session at the Quality of Life Center. I was not able to attend because of the St. Patrick's Day Parade, but my team was there in force, and that was a completely different room, mostly renters, mostly members of the community over there, and they shared their concerns around housing. We're hearing a lot about rentals, which I don't think anybody is surprised at. Some things have come up, for example, with the Tenant Bill of Rights, which we appreciate your work on. There's question now about how that should be enforced. Whose job is it? It's not really code enforcement's job. Some things have been raised that we definitely need to look further into. I really want to thank the team. Many of them are here tonight, from Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, the Department of Neighborhood and Economic Development. Code enforcement officers, everyone was there to listen, and all of that data will now be put into that final plan that M&L presents to us.
And I do think this is a good call to action for us as council to revisit that Tenant Bill of Rights and see how, I think it's great, but it's only great when it's useful to be implemented. And so seeing how we could work with the systems that we have through the district justices, through the staffing, to make it something that's usable and helpful in protecting.
Yeah, and Dr. Titus, if I could just add, since I know we have a minute, we have had a couple of incidents over the past week or so that I would say have really highlighted this issue with rentals. And I want to be very clear, this is not all landlords. We have very many good landlords in the city of Erie, and they are investing in their properties, and they're doing what they need to do, and then we have some who are not. And we, this week, took action, and we will continue to take action to do what we need to do. And we want to be very clear, this isn't just the City of Erie's code enforcement officers. All code enforcement can do is look on the outside, do property maintenance review. This is internal issues that we really need to address. Right now, BIU is the outsourcing agent for our inspections, and there is just a breakdown of communication. So this is something we're going to bring to you in April. That'll be the topic of our study session. This is where a lot of the issues are really coming from. And I want to say again, it's not every landlord. Many of them are doing right by their tenants, but the ones that are not, it's time for us to take action.
I think the other side of that too, there's an awful lot of good people
Yeah.
that are being hurt by landlords, but there are a lot of people taking total advantage of them.
Yeah.
I've been in real estate for a lot of years, and I've seen some of the, a lot of them know the rules. You can't be thrown out for 90 days
Right.
and all that kind of stuff, and by the time they leave, the place is a wreck.
Yep.
So it's a double-edged sword.
We have a lot of work to do.
I have one quick question. This poor guy, he gets up in the morning, his wife's been in the hospital with a stroke. He's gonna bring her home from the hospital. Tuesday morning, looks out the front door, and there's a tree on his car. But his insurance company is telling him that until they find out if the tree is on the city, what do we have, 12 feet from the center of the city or something, center of the street, or from the owner's house. Poor guy sitting there with a red Jeep and a big tree laying on it. He had to go rent a car, and it's So right on Highview there, it's a nice neighborhood. We have big trees.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Mr. Brzezinski, we had this conversation the other day because we had so many trees down. We have to be really careful in terms of liability that we can't go onto private property. We can't take our equipment under private property. So we've been really clear with streets that they are to pick up trees that are in the right of way, but we can't, as much as we'd like to help everybody, it's too much of a liability for us to be going onto private property and removing them. So I think streets did a great job this week in removing from the right of way and doing what they needed to do. And by the way, then immediately switching to salting and plowing, which we didn't expect to do, but all in like the matter of 24 hours. So, but this is an issue. We had a lot of calls and we had to remind people, we can't come on your property.
I would ask, because
Yeah.
I knew there was a setback from the middle of the street or something.
Yeah, but if he's being advised by his insurance company particularly, I wouldn't want us to get in the
Yeah.
middle of that either.
I just didn't know if we were liable for it, that's all.
And I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Who would know which,
We can find out the setback, I mean, that question, and get that information to you, and then at least you can provide it to him. You can do that.
I think it's always been said that anything in between a sidewalk and the street is.
no sidewalks
tree.
on Highview?
Right, well, anything off the street, I think, is,
12 feet from the middle of the street
Okay.
is the last rule that I heard.
okay.
So if there's no sidewalk, there's another issue.
We'll get clarity for you on that.
Yeah, I just feel sorry for the guy.
Yeah,
that's all.
that would probably be Sarah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that anybody, I'm not sure what other calls that others have been getting. Mine have mostly been around the public hearings tonight that we'll be having, and I've been hearing a lot more about housing. I think it's in tangent with just the listening sessions that have been happening and just some of the local groups who've been really staying focused on this.
I'm in the hot seat, so anybody else have questions? We might as well keep going.
I'm sorry.
No, we're
I
good?
don't mean to do that.
No, it's fine, I don't mind, it's the job.
Are we going to continue the way we do big ticket items by calling in and that? Because I can see driving around the city where it's not like 2 or 3 items, there's 10
Yeah,
items.
Seeing like where we were back to before, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of problems.
We are going to do the sweeps that were done last year, but we're going to hold off until April 1st. We want to give folks a chance to try to take care of some of those items themselves. This is a place code enforcement does help. They do, exterior review. And we've encouraged them to go out and work with residents, talk to them about large item pickup, how to do that. You can do it online, or you can call to get that scheduled. Or, maybe you need a vendor, but we'll work with them, and we're gonna try over these last weeks of March to understand where the worst spots are, where our code enforcement officers need to be. And then on April 1st, we will announce that we will be ticketing again and doing sweeps. And at that point, then people need to, we can't allow the city to look like trash. It's just, we cannot. It's not fair to our neighbors, and so we will be aggressively working on this. It takes all of us kind of working together, code enforcement, communications office, all of it. But yes, April 1st, we will begin the ticketing again.
And this was something we had also seen, again, that was quickly a trend became noticeable, that it was some landlords who weren't present, that were tenants were leaving things out and they weren't aware, and other people were getting punished, and it was falling on, especially on the taxpayers. So I do feel like this is also one of those other routes where we're identifying where some of the problem areas are, and we're able to address that.
Also communicating, we did put something out to remind residents, you can't put your garbage out prior to 24 hours before your pickup night. So the problem is, if you put your garbage out on Monday and your pickup is Wednesday, and now we had all this wind, and now your trash is everywhere, and there's animals in your bags, like, you can't do that, because again, so we do need to continue to educate our residents on how they can help us keep our city clean. Everybody has a role to play, just as simple as that. Please don't put your trash out until it's your trash night. So we are going to continue to educate and talk about this more and more, kind of leading up to the bigger things that we need to do. But it sounds silly, but it does take everybody to have a role in this.
Put your can away at 20, don't leave it out till next Tuesday.
Yeah.
A lot of them in the streets.
Yeah, they blow all over the place if they're laying in the streets.
And if you drive in the neighborhoods with a lot of green spaces, you see a bunch of garbage cans, and you're like, I wonder whose house you belong to, because you know it's not anywhere near, because no one, looked for their can, so it's obviously blown from quite some
Right.
distance. We have strong wind.
I did have this planned out in a much more robust way, but we're pulling with some of the DCED and the HUD funding. So I did want to, that was going to also be in this tonight, but our brains are getting a little bit of breathing room, and we will tackle that at another later time. But I did want to make sure that we, as council, just felt that that we were ready to go in with the Section 305 and Section 306 before the public hearings tonight, because this is, these are big ones and I don't think I think these are going to be big ones, and I just want to make sure everybody felt confident. We don't have to fill the space. We don't have to keep you in a hot seat. We can recess until the council meeting starts. And that will give us time to reset the space
I
as well.
just do want to say, the staff is all here, so if you have questions for the staff about any of the zoning or anything, I just want to make sure, this is the time to ask them. So just if anyone does, I'm happy to call them up.
I think I just want to hear from the public, and then any presentation that both applicants, whether it's for the liquor license or the hotel. I think I'm just in listening mode. I don't have a lot of questions. Any questions I might have would derive from that.
What are you tying your hair with one hand?
I got a girlfriend.
I'm going to say his wife.
Well then, if council's okay with it, we will go ahead and recess then until our meeting starts. And that way we can reset the room and be ready for our public meeting.